So let's get into it. This is the story of the Gaza gang. We're talking about a crew of teenagers who basically declared war on the entire Kenyan state. They became one of Nairobi's most infamous, most feared criminal networks. And yeah, it's a story all about power, betrayal, and, well, a really bloody and, you could say, inevitable end.
But here's the thing. To really get how Gaza fell, we actually have to start at the very end. Picture this. A quiet morning in Maranga, all of a sudden a fourth-floor apartment just erupts into a war zone. We're talking 5 brutal hours. A handful of the gang's last surviving members holding off the police in a full-blown firefight. This wasn't just some routine arrest, no way. This was it. A final, desperate standoff.
So you gotta ask, right? How on earth did it get to this point? I mean, how does a group of kids from Nairobi's Eastlands end up in a deadly siege with the country's most elite counter-terror squad? It's a wild story. And to find the answer, yeah, we have to go all the way back to the beginning, to one young man whose choices really set the stage for everything that followed.
Okay, so let's talk about that young man. His street name was Tommaso Gugula, but he was born Thomas Wanjohi. And trust me, his path was anything, and I mean anything, but predictable.
I mean, just look at the two worlds of this guy. The contrast it's just wild. You see, Tommaso wasn't some kid born into crushing poverty, not at all. His dad was a senior manager in the government, his mom was a counselor at a university, he went to a private school. But after getting expelled, he made a choice, a huge one. He completely rejected his comfortable middle-class life in Langata and just ran. He ran straight into the total chaos of Kayola. He even got silver teeth, to really signal his new identity.
So, at one point, the police actually warned his parents. They told them, look, your son is heading for a total disaster. And what did Tommaso do? Did he lay low? Nope. He went on Facebook and posted this quote. This wasn't just some kid being defiant online. No, this was a declaration. It was him telling the world, I've chosen my path and there is no turning back.
And that path, well, it came to an absolutely brutal end on August 12, 2014. After a carjacking went wrong, the police ambushed him at an ATM in Buruburu. He was hit with 13 bullets. 13. He was only 22 years old. The fallout for his family? Devastating. His own father was apparently so ashamed he refused to bury him on their ancestral land. So just like that, the chapter of Tommaso was over. But from the ashes of his crew, a new and honestly far more ruthless figure was about to rise.
All right, so who was this new leader? His name was Munesh, and Munesh saw exactly what Tommaso had started, and he decided he was going to build an entire empire right on its ruins, and he gave it a name, Gaza.
And listen, Munesh built his empire on one thing: absolute loyalty. To get into his inner circle, what they called his kitchen cabinet, you had to go through this whole ritual. First, he would personally shave your head. It was a symbol, right? Leaving your old life completely behind. Then, everyone would share what they called the Gaza blend, basically a roll of weed meant to seal the bond. This is exactly how he brought him guys like his childhood friend Teddy Kasanga, who would become his second in command.
You know the saying, every king needs a queen, right? Well, Munesh found his. Her name was Claire Adives. She was just a teenager, but she quickly became his partner in crime, the Queen of Gaza. She and her friend Marcia, they ran this whole operation called the Gaza Girl Front. What they do is lure men from clubs into ambushes, and then the gang got their first gun. And once that happened, the whole game changed. Petty jobs turned into violent home invasions, and by 2015, they had escalated to murder. They killed a former member of parliament, Philip Godana, right in front of his family. But for Manoush, this was just the beginning. He had much bigger plans. One gun? That wasn't nearly enough. He wanted an arsenal, and he made a critical decision. He wasn't going to buy them, he was going to take them, straight from the police. And that's the moment this stopped being just crime. This was a declaration of war. And the escalation from there, it was terrifyingly fast. I mean, just look at this timeline. You can see a systematic campaign unfolding over just a few short months. They were ambushing and killing police officers one by one for one reason and one reason only: to steal their weapons. This wasn't random anymore. This was calculated. They were arming themselves for a direct confrontation with the state.
So, on the outside, the gang was getting bolder, more dangerous, but on the inside, it was starting to rot. Munesh became intensely paranoid. He saw his close friend, a guy named Kolo, getting a little too friendly with Claire online.
So what did he do? He lured Kolo out to a quarry, supposedly just to talk, and then he executed him. Just like that. In Munesh's world, even the suspicion of betrayal was a death sentence.
Well, you could probably guess what happened next. Killing police officers like that, it triggered an absolutely unprecedented response. The entire force of Kenya's security apparatus was now focused on one single target, taking down Gaza. A massive manhunt began, and you could just feel the walls starting to close in.
And then came the first major blow. It was May 12, 2017. During a botched M-Pesa shop robbery, Claire Adives, the Queen of Gaza, was shot and killed. She was only 18 years old, and her death, that was really the beginning of the end for Munesh's entire empire.
Munesh apparently mourned Claire silently, online, because he knew showing up at a public funeral would be a suicide mission. But it didn't matter. His time was up. Soon after, police tracked him down to a swamp in Withavi. A 2-hour gun battle followed, and at the end of it, Munesh, the king of Gaza, was dead. He was just 23, and with that, the gang's leadership had completely, totally collapsed.
You'd think that would be the end of it, right? But the war wasn't over. With Munesh dead, his second-in-command, that childhood friend we talked about, Teddy Kasanga, he took the crown. So now he's leading a crew that's fractured, hunted, but still incredibly dangerous.
And that brings us right back to where we started this whole story. After killing 2 more officers, basically in revenge for Munesh's death, Teddy's crew split up. One of those units fled to that apartment in Moranga, and here's the mistake they made. One of them turned on a phone. That was it. Their location was pinged, a 5-hour siege kicked off, and it got so intense that Kenya's elite recce squad, they had to be called in. Things escalated, hostages were taken, and finally, the squad breached the room and ended that standoff for good.
But what about Teddy Kasanga, the last leader? He was now basically a ghost. He had gone into hiding in the town of Tala. So the police, they went old school. We're talking elite officers going deep undercover, posing as boda riders, peanut hawkers, common laborers. It was a slow, patient, methodical operation, all designed to gather intel and pinpoint exactly where the last king of Gaza was hiding.
Okay, so on December 2nd, they finally moved in, and the raid was just pure chaos. One of Teddy's guys threw boiling water at the first officer who came through the door. In the firefight that erupted, Teddy grabbed a local school teacher, a man named Shadrach, and used him as a human shield. Tragically, in the crossfire, the teacher was killed. Teddy tried to make a run for it, escaping into the pandemonium of the local market, but he was gunned down in the dust. And with that, the Gaza gang was finally, officially finished.
So, that's the story. With its leaders dead and its members scattered or in jail, what exactly was Gaza's legacy? What made this gang so different from all the others that came before?
Well, what really set them apart was this unique and pretty modern combination of things. They mixed that extreme violence and that direct war on the police with something new, social media bravado. Think about it, they didn't just commit crimes, they broadcast them. They were flashing stolen AK-47s on Facebook, openly taunting the very officers who were hunting them. They were loud, they were bloody, and in the end, they were tragically short-lived.
In this quote, this really captures their whole mindset perfectly. After Munesh was killed, one of the surviving members, a guy named Kimando, posted this online. See, to them, Gaza wasn't just a group of people. It was an idea. It was a defiant identity that they genuinely believed could never, ever be truly destroyed.
And that leaves us with one final kinda haunting thought, doesn't it? Guys like Teddy Kasanga and Munesh, they didn't start this cycle. And their deaths certainly didn't end it. The Gaza gang, the specific group, is gone, yes. But as long as the root causes, the poverty, the desperation that created them in the first place still exist in Nairobi's slums, you have to ask the question, is the cycle really broken? Or is another Gaza just waiting to rise from the ashes?